good at doing one-day events. Or Alvarado, we've seen her win worlds in the past, being so good at, throughout the whole season, but then particularly one-day events. Brand is a specialist in peaking for a World Championships. Then you have to have that motivation. Even if you're right now, Brand isn't in a podium spot, but her motivation is the World Championships next weekend, and she knows this is all part of the training, and she could still win worlds next weekend. So it's working out what's a good thing, what you're motivated by. And for me, it was always motivated by an early peak around November, Koppenberg, European champs, that kind of thing. And that always meant you did well in this series. At the time, it would have been the B-Post Trophy or other names it's had over the years. And the World Championships was quite often second because I was never good in snow and ice. And 90% of the time it ended up being snow and ice. And the times where it was mud, I got a medal at the World Championships. So you can do it two different ways, but certain riders are better motivated by either being good all season or by that one event that you get to wear a really cool jersey for the rest of the year.
And Fem van Empel's already got a cool one. She'll want to try and swap this next week for a rainbow jersey. Comes out of that bottom corner, tucks it down, ups the pressure again, and will come round at the end of lap 4. 35 seconds was the gap for the last lap. So just over 30 minutes of racing so far. So it goes through there, 30 minutes and 12 seconds of racing. Sharon van Alroy is not far away now from taking that corner into the start-finish straight. And you know that Sharon as well, this was the problem corner for her on the last lap, and the gap seems to be growing as Fem van Empel heads out with 2 laps to go. But Ceylon's Carmen Alvarado here, Helen's recovered from that little tumble earlier on, getting stronger as this race goes on.
She's looking really strong. She was looking strong before that. She made possibly a bad choice in not changing in the running section at the pits, and then she had that one crash. But every time she's been on the bike, and she's looking really, really strong. And she was actually started in road racing, and she only took up cyclocross because she wanted to stay fit in the winter. And look where it got her.
Yes. If you fancy having a go, get out there. Cyclocross bike is your Swiss Army knife for bikes. You don't need anything else. And it's the greatest sport on earth. And we're biased. 1 minute and 4 to Ceylon Del Carmen Alvarado, of course, as well. We'll see out on the road with the Planta Pura this season. Also mixes it on the mountain bike as well. 1 minute and 12 to Lucinda Brand. Denise Betsema losing a bit of time here in 5th spot is going to go through there at 1 minute and 24 seconds. Back to our leader, just looking so cool, so calm out there, is the Jumbo-Visma rider, the European champion. Perhaps another blue European champion, Cervelo bike. And she's just going to be, we think, sensational signing for that team. You mentioned Marianne Vos as well in terms of the Jumbo-Visma team and the outgoing world champion. Marianne Vos announcing this week, Helen, that she's got as well the compressed iliac issue, and that's the reason why she's not starting the Worlds. Has got to get that treated.
Yeah, and ultimately she is a road rider now. Now she is paid to be a road rider and to win Olympic medals on the road. So for her, that is the more important part of her racing. It looked like Sharon was just about to go into the crowd there. I'm not sure if she was just tied to the post or she's actually had another little incident. But yeah, so she needs to get fixed by road season, and road season basically has started already. As you said, there's 2 Women's World Tour events already happened. We're going to watch. Oh, she's sideways and it's flicked towards the crowd. And in these moments when that happens, you really have to try and look to where you want to be, not where you're actually heading, because then you will always crash. And you just have to relax and see what happens, basically. And 99% of the time, you can just about get out of it, as she only just had to jump off her bike and jump back on again. And 1% of the time, you just still hit the tape no matter where you're looking.
Yeah, it's not a time for crowd surfing with a couple of laps to go. Great crowd again here in HAMME. It's a real traditional cross is the one we have here. Van Empel lines up. You can see how quick it is through the planks. Again, another great performance from the Jumbo-Visma rider today. It's just been something to behold this winter, hasn't it? I think that's what the beauty of what we do in commentary, and just following riders like Fem and Shirin all the way through their careers, and just watching, you know, the absolute monster of a season that the three with Puck Pedersen have had this winter.
Yeah, and we have seen these riders. I mean, I literally raced against these riders from when they first started racing cross till now, and you're seeing them and come of age and be the best riders. It's happened a lot quicker than many riders. Yeah, you have an exceptional rider like Voss that won a World Cup when she was 16, but nowadays it's much more in the early 20s, and these riders were 18, 19 when they were first winning. So it's absolutely amazing to see, and to see them be so consistently good all season, and to push each other too, because that's something that we've always lacked in women's cycling. We've had one brilliant rider, and the other riders have had to try and get themselves up to that level. And now we have three exceptional riders that are all as good as each other, and they're pushing each other in the same way that Wout and Mathieu have pushed each other throughout their careers. And that's brilliant for the sport, because it makes it even more professional and even more exciting every year.
Well, I think what the change as well is that, you know, you can see the speed, the skill level, just the physicality of, for want of a better word, watching the way, last week, everyone just dive bombing each other on the corners, and really, it's become really, really physical. Everyone's really fighting and battling for every last millimetre into every turn.
And it's fast. And my husband was in the pits with me always. He was my mechanic, and he rode courses with me and all those things. And so he's been in the sport as long as I was racing. And he went to a World Cup for the first time since 2019 over Christmas. And he said now the speed at the front of the race is insane for these women. And he said that in the past, it was always a lap, you had to ride that fast, and then the groups would settle in, and then you could have the race. And now he says it's 2.5 laps that you have to ride at that insane speed before the course kind of takes its toll and it starts to separate out. And even then it doesn't, like we saw in Benidorm, where they're still dive bombing each other into the last laps. And it's just he said it's a completely different sport. And the riders that of my era, so Sana Kant and Ellen Van Looys and those riders, don't know what they can do to be back there, because it's just literally a different sport to when we were racing 5-6 years ago. So it's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, you can see as well, riders like Denise Betsema and, those sort of riders as well, from one winter to the next, and looking at the time gaps that, riders like Fem Van Empel, Puck Pedersen and Shirin van Anrooy are putting in as well in these races. And what's interesting as well in the World Cup is the fact that we haven't had a non-Dutch rider off the, on the podium yet. Sylvia Persico has been knocking on the door. But what, as a rider, someone like a Denise Betsema, or, one of those riders, looking at the way this winter has gone, where, the plans are drawing up of where you try and get to for next season.
Well, absolutely, and that's the discussions that they're having in the pits, and with the coaching staff and everyone around them. They're saying, what are we not doing that they are doing? What can we do? What can we do better? What can we do that they aren't doing that will make us at that level? And a lot of it actually relates to training groups together. The top 3 girls actually do quite a lot of training together in there's a Dutch training thing group that you can go to, and Fem goes, Puck goes, Manon Bakker, Annick van Alphen, riders like that all go every week, and they just beat each other up basically in cross training for a couple of hours, and then they go away and do their own individual training and everything else. And whereas some of the Belgian riders tend to ride on their own, they don't They also put in some junior boys with the women's groups, because the junior boys are very fast and skillful, so they can actually help to take the women even further. And so it's kind of, yeah, I feel that that's how these riders have come in with so much skill, because of the way they've grown in the sport, but also then the speed on top is because they are, beating each other up each week and wanting to be better than the next one in training. Even though there's no prizes for winning training, they still want to be better than the other rider, and therefore that makes the next one try something new. And that's always been there in men's cycling, and now it is there in women's, which is brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant.
And then they come out and beat each other up at the weekend as well. We've seen some great racing so far this season. What a season Shirin van Anrooy is having. Lucinda Brand going through at 1 minute and 32 seconds now in 4th place. So the gaps, and the reason we refer to the time a lot here in the X²O Trophy, if you haven't been with us at the top of our show, it is a series on a cumulative time, and Fem van Empel here going into the day 49 seconds down on Lucinda Brand in the general classification. She's already won the UCI rather than travel to Besançon for the herself into the top of the general classification here in the X²O Trophy as well today.
Yeah, I mean, she's taken that classification now based on these times, and yeah, I mean, Brand would be able to maintain second as long as Alvarado doesn't get too much more time on her. But Alvarado's riding really well on this course as well, and that little section that we just saw Alvarado ride through looks really easy. But if you were there and racing it, the speed at which they hit that rut, knowing it's deep, I think we're just about to watch Brand do it. Yeah, so these ruts are deep and they just ride straight through it without even thinking it's there. But if you even paused for a second, that rut would just grab you and knock you to the floor. So the speed and the skill of these riders at the top of the race is really impressive.
And we know when any of us are riding around the course, I always just call it, when I go around a course like this, I just call it running out of talent half the time when you try and ride something like that. It always goes horribly wrong sometimes. Fem lines up, runs the planks. She's on the final lap. When we were hit the X²O Trophy last year, Lucinda Brand taking the GC ahead of Denise Bettimer and Annemarie Verst. And Lucinda Brand has taken this series overall for the last 2 seasons. Sailing Del Carmen Alvarado this season. Before that, Sanakant, Katie Compton, and then Sanakant the 2 previous seasons to that. So we'll get a new name at the top of the leaderboard in this one. And Fem, of course, kicking off with the Koppenberg Cross. And there's, when you look at this potentially and the time that she's taken back on the round, she hasn't started because she has targeted the World Cup overall. So even with those penalties, is still up there and battling for the GC, which is something else.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, you have years like that sometimes. The World Cup has seemed to have taken priority. Now it's 14 rounds, and the way that, so for the World Championships, in the past, your gridding was based on your world ranking. And now this year, the World Championships, the gridding is based on the first 8 in the World Cup, followed by the world ranking. So you could be number 1 in the world. It's very rare that it would happen, but you could be number 1 in the world and start 9th. Whereas, so the World Cup doesn't just have the prize money, which is bigger than any other race, the overall prize fund, which is equal to the overall prize, which is actually bigger than the overall prize fund for this, not by a lot, but a small amount. You then have the points. You then have for the points for your world ranking, but you then have the points for the gridding for the World Championships. And the front row is almost essential to win the World Championships in today's women's cyclocross. It is almost essential to be on the front row, or it's so tough to win from there. In the past, it wasn't so bad, but now with the level and the speed that you have to be in the first 2 laps, that front row grid is so important. So that makes the World Cup equally as important.
Celinda Carmen Alvarado has got Shirin Van Anrooy in her sights, but still has some work to do to get back to second spot on the podium. Fem Van Empel, though now ranked #1 in the world in cyclocross, up from 4th. Pedersen is ranked 2nd. Lucinda Brand now ranked 3rd, with Celinda Carmen Alvarado 4th, Shirin Van Anrooy 5th. And Denise Bettemer now has dropped to 6th from 2nd. Then you've got Inge van der Heide, Manon Bakker, Annemarie Verst, and Annick van Alphen is your top 10 in the UCI world ranking. So, as well this season, it's seen Fem Van Empel here go to the top of the world rankings.
Yeah, and that kind of tends to happen because of the it's points heavy at a World Cup. I think it's something like 200 points to win a World Cup, and it's only 40 to win today, maybe 100 if it's a C1. So it's kind of, 80, sorry, if it's a C1. So the point scoring is so much higher. And yeah, I mean, as on our point we were talking about with the previous generation of riders, that's Ellen Van Looy, who's had podiums in World Cups 10 years ago, maybe 8 years ago, but Fem Van Empel has just lapped her in a X²O Badkamers trophy.
Yeah, won this series overall, did Ellen Van Looy as well. And she said it herself in her interviews that it's, as you've said, it's so different in terms of, you know, the way that these races and the speed and the technical ability. And Ellen came into racing quite late as well. Out of that corner, here comes Fem Van Empel up to the finish. What a ride yet again from the Jumbo-Visma rider to take the victory here at the Flandrian Cross in HAMME. But with it, we'll move. Given times, we'll see what the times are when they cross the finish line, but should take the lead in the series. Verado just comes to a bit of a halt there.
Yeah, that was a super smooth ride by Van Empel, and she was totally in control the entire time from start to finish. As soon as she got a gap, she just rode a steady race, and yeah, she's not even out of breath.
Amazing, isn't it? Got to get your protein shake in you. Shirin Van Anrooy. For the World Championships in a week's time, Shirin Van Anrooy will go into Hoge Heide next week as a favourite for the under-23 title. Celinda Carmen Alvarado still in 3rd spot, but Shirin Van Anrooy of Baloise Trek Lions, high fives the crowd, comes in a minute and 13 seconds now, minute and 14 in.
Really good at multi-day racing. So yeah, it would be really exciting to see what she can do, as long as it's her second preference and crosses her first, obviously.
Yes, she's not allowed to go. We always say that. You're out. And then Celinda Carmen Under 23 championship in a week's time, but start line like an absolute rocket ship. But you have to take the confidence from that and a top 10 to finish.
I think she's second year junior, so next season she will always race with the elites. But yeah, it's like you can actually learn what it feels like to be up there. You can learn what it feels like to lead a race, how the riders come around you, what lines they're taking that you haven't necessarily thought of because you've never been there at the front of the race. So it's it's really, really important to practice those things in a non-pressure environment.
Francesca Baroni, coming round next, the Italian rider for the Pise Group, Pise Group TOM, for Francesca Baroni.